AOPA has been very active over the past year in representing the interests of the orthotic and prosthetic industry and those of our patients in the current deliberations in Congress relating to health care reform. Our members have been very active coming to Washington lobbying on these issues, both during the AOPA Public Policy Forum in April, as well as at other times throughout the year. During this period, we have formed a very hardworking and successful coalition with the Amputee Coalition of America. So many people have contributed to this effort that it would be difficult to acknowledge everyone. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the efforts and contributions made by our lobbying team members, Tom Scully and Stephanie Kennan from Alston and Bird, and Nick Littlefield from Foley Hoag. I also want to acknowledge the contributions and efforts of Peter Thomas, the counsel to the OMP Alliance. AOPA board member Rick Fleetwood and former board member Tom Kirk have also contributed their time and energies very fully, and others have contributed as well above and beyond the call of duty. Together we have formed a very active and vibrant coalition. I want to also recognize Kendra Calhoun and Morgan Sheets from the Amputee Coalition of America, and their partnership has been exceptional. In the past week, in conjunction with an assembly of Amputee Coalition of America members in Washington, we had the opportunity to sit face-to-face with some members of Congress and talk about health care reform. The purpose of this video is to take you into these congressional offices and to have you listen in and understand a bit about the latest discussions and deliberations, concepts that are being weighed, and get some insights into how the current health care reform discussions may eventually impact your business, your reimbursements, and your patients.
So, Congressman, it seems that some form of health reform is inevitably going to pass, but a lot of amputees are concerned that the quality of health care may diminish. Specifically, I'm more concerned about kids for my foundation. How can we ensure that they have the best prosthetics they can afford to live happy and productive lives?
I think this is critical that you've brought this issue to the Congress, because there's a lot of big issues that are being talked about with health care reform. There's not a lot of people that are talking about this issue, especially as it relates to children. And some of the things that we're doing in the bill that will help address this issue deal with the issue of lifetime caps and annual caps, pre-existing condition exclusions, things that the private insurers do today that prevent children from getting the coverage that they need, especially through the years as they get older. And some of the things that we've talked about today dealing with the cost of children who are growing and have to replace their prosthetics over time. These are things that are completely out of pocket once you hit that cap. And under this bill, there won't be a lifetime cap. There won't be an annual cap. So these are circumstances that there would be coverage all the way through, which is going to spare the families of those children and the children themselves as they continue to grow all the expensive treatments and out-of-pocket costs that go with it.
The pre-existing condition, eliminating that, and eliminating the caps, lifetime caps and annual caps, is a very meat and potatoes of this legislation. And not only are they important in the initial House legislation, but I am absolutely confident that they will be contained in the final version, which we ultimately vote on and pass, no matter which version is taken up. Those two issues are front and center.
One of the things that you've done has been the leader on our Medicare Orthotics and Prosthetics Improvements Act. And while we're not going to convert you because you've already been converted, I'd just like to ask you for your thoughts on kind of how that stands, this small little issue that will save a modest amount of money in the big healthcare reform picture.
Well, hope springs eternal, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to include it in the final version. What we actually need to do is get CMS to actually enforce the laws that we've already passed and their own rules and regulations. Now, one would think that shouldn't be that difficult, and it's almost incomprehensible to me that Congress has to pass another law to get the regulating agency to enforce the law that we've already passed. But that being the case, I guess we have to do that, and we will.
Senator Corker, the Amputee Coalition of America represents the 2 million Americans with limb loss in the United States. And we're hearing a lot that if this healthcare reform does pass, that a lot of people are concerned that their limb care will be negatively affected. What do you say to their concerns?
Well, I'd say, first of all, there is no bill right now. And being here, like you are right now in the height of the debate, is very important, because what happens is you come here, we realize there's an issue there that needs to be addressed, and I just want to say that it's seeing a face and a person who's been affected in this way. Those are the things that really affect us as we sit down and go through legislation. So you're right to be concerned. I mean, if we end up with, say, a one-size-fits-all type policy, then obviously people who have extreme issues to deal with could be adversely affected. One of the issues that concerns me is just the whole innovation. My guess is that you've been very positively affected by innovations that have really caused you to have more mobility than you might otherwise have had. So we need to, as we move through this healthcare debate, we need to preserve our ability to have the very best technologies available to people. At the same time, figure out ways of controlling cost.
People are very concerned about the prospects that this is going to be funded by cuts to providers, to the physicians and to the orthotic and prosthetic providers who provide the care. What do you see as the limits on this? Is this going to happen? How much do we have to worry about it?
Well, it's hard to gauge people's motives, but I think a lot of people that would support the government option, the public option, are looking for ways to pay for a new setup like this. And where they will go is health insurance companies, because the perception is that they've been taking advantage of people for a long period of time. And I said earlier, I'd like to see them held more accountable myself.